Jones, you're not in your usual environment and you haven't got your picture behind you, where are you?
No, I'm in a hotel in Tewkesbury. Just the last throes of being on tour with the Lions, and so it's not quite the same without my picture.
No,
We'll have to crack on anyway.
we're going to have to. I want to talk about the Lord's Test that's just finished. A second shortest test at Lord's forever, probably. We should be talking about Emilio Gay, great debut, Ollie Robinson, a great return, Nathan Smith, underrated. Yet, what we are going to talk about is the pitch. What do you make of the pitch? Did you see much of it?
Yeah, it obviously wasn't good enough, and so for Lords, it just wasn't a good look at all. They want to try and go 5 days because of members and everything. I had a few mates. Good old Patch, early mention on the pod. He was up there on the Friday, and so that's it. And so with your home of cricket playing the way it is and the scores, the issue was the amount of lateral movement. It wasn't the swing in the air. It was the amount of seam. We saw batters leaving at what they thought was a safe leave, maybe sixth stump, and then clattering into their off stump. And so yeah, it's taken a bit of the shine off those performances you mentioned, and it's sort of reared up with about the pitch and what should happen with it, what are the options and going forward, because Lords are always going to host a test match, but what they don't want to host is short test matches.
Well, that was probably the leads on to. I mean, there was the bounce as well, which was variable. I mean, a lot kept low as well, didn't it? But what you just said there probably leads on to the main thrust of what I want to ask you about. I mean, and I'm going to go with that. Do you remember we used to do Cop That back in the day over the Ashes, where we'd take opposing views of stuff? I'm going with the fact that Lords should lose a test match. It lose its test match status until such a point where it can produce a pitch that is fit for test match purpose. What do you reckon?
Good luck.
Yes, obviously, but seriously, I mean, why should it keep it?
Well, yeah, I get it. And Steve Harmison today has come out on Talk Sport and been quite punchy, saying that if it was a county match, that if Middlesex were playing there for a county match, they would be docked any points that they've got, and the pitch would have been rated as poor and consequences of that to follow. So, but Lords isn't going to lose a test match, and it's not like they've meant to. I think they would have tried to prepare the best pitch they can, but McCullum has said it's a living thing, so you can look at it, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to play. And I think around the county there's a lot of wickets, and there's talk of it being tied, and is the square tied? And that's probably where the argument's going. And so with that in mind, you could argue that Lords have got the finances to do whatever they want to that surface to try and get it. And because when in my time it was renowned as a slow, dead pitch. It was hard to get a result on. I remember Pakistan. That Fred bowled 50 overs in an innings there. It was that dead a wicket. So there's talk. Simon Doull has come out and hinted pretty poorly, and what the chat is about drop-in pitches. Should Lords Lords
like
become
the
first drop-in pitch? Yeah, exactly. So if anyone, Lords are going to be the ones that look at that and investigate to see if it's going to improve, because the members. I'm a member. My red book. If I plan to go up there on the Sunday, that it's pretty much done. It's you're going to be pretty angry.
It's interesting that you said that even in your playing days 20 odd years ago that it was still like that. So has it got worse, or has it just always been the same?
Well, what it looks like it does is far more, far more up and down and far more sideways. I remember, if you hark back to the Ashes, McGrath bowled us out with his lateral movement, and it was, and actually, I remember Varney getting bowled out with a low one there. So it's always had a few gremlins, but I think they've always erred on the side of it just being a slow, pretty turgid wicket to get people out. But every now and again, it pops its head up, and what we had in this test match happens. But I do think it's potentially becoming a bit more regular. So alarm bells will be ringing in the long room, that's for sure.
Is it just because it's old?
Yeah, I remember talking to Simon Cook at Kent. Kent had their issues with the wickets and with what you do to it. So when you wet it, you roll it, and you try and compact it. And if you look underneath it, they dug it up, and the top bit of it was okay, but underneath, so the root structure and that's all that sort of stuff holds it together. But they just got to a point where it looked like honeycomb and was just crumbling. So in effect, when you think of West Indies, the wickets they used to have, which looked like rolled mud, but they were compact and they would skid through. But
Yeah.
so over here, I think there's an issue with the structure of wickets and the amount of cricket that's played on them, and how they can in a way, in an essence, keep them alive and keep them fresh. And I think that's the battle that a lot of ground staff are having, and especially since the introduction of um, all the irrigation and the drainage systems that have been put in place, because historically they weren't there. So ground probably held a bit more water, held it together a bit. Whereas now it's, you want to drain away to get matches underway. Well, what effect is that having on all the
Mm.
squares around the country?
They tried steaming it, didn't they? I mean, ironing it, steaming it. There's all sorts of stuff going on to try to get this thing to be fit for purpose. They must have, for the amount of effort and money they put into making the pitch, playable, if you like. Um, Suggest two things. One is they knew a long time out that they might have a problem. And B, going back to either Harmy or whoever you said, Simon Dawder, whoever who said it earlier, the case for drop-in pitches is getting stronger because at least you can mitigate all of those root issues and structural issues below the surface that you're not likely to see. I mean, so just do that in two parts. Then one is let's go with the drop-in pitches first. Where'd you stand on that?
Well, the one thing will be, what soil do you use? Because in Australia, we spoke about it, that Perth had found where the original hard, fast soil was,
Yeah.
and that's what they were creating at their new stadium. So that became synonymous with Perth style. So they could drop in. They want to drop in a Perth style wicket. Well, for Lords, what do you do? Because what style of wicket do you want? All of a sudden, are we going to try and get a hard, fast, bouncy one, which has grown in a polytunnel somewhere? So that's a bit of the argument for me, is that what style do we want? Do we want to go for that? Because I think that tends to be, we just want good cricket wickets that are going to create longer test matches. This one was entertaining, but just not long enough. So that's the question, is where you'd get the soil and what type of soil matches up, because everyone wants a good wicket. Test match cricket, if you can drop in a belter that's going to produce great cricket for longer term, everyone would be up for that for sure.
Define great cricket or a belter. What makes an ideal test match?
Something that first session, it's tough work for the opening batters. It's not crazy, but you
Yeah.
have to play well. You've got to leave well. Bowlers, if they hit good areas, can can challenge the batters. But if they also subsequently, if they miss that, batters are going to get the opportunity to score. And then gradually, as you expect, the ball gets older, it gets easier to play. It then livens up again for the new ball. And then as the match progresses, you then start to see the variations where spin comes into it. And on the last day, you're looking at something that's going to turn and maybe offer a bit of up and down, because that's the beauty of winning the toss. You're forecasting ahead to go, right, well, we've got Bashir. So, we bat first and get a good total. We're hoping to have New Zealand batting on that last day, which is offering something for Bash, and also something for our fast bowlers that can start to a little bit of variance of bounce. That's what you start out the test match thinking, is forecasting ahead. You don't sort of think, right, okay, 2.5 days, what's going to work for us, because Bashir might as well just not have been there.
Not exactly. It's, I don't know. There was something about the number of times now that England have picked a spinner but not bowled them. It's this is a step up for him. At least he got picked, which is better than the Ashes, where he didn't get picked. At least he got picked this time. Yeah, I suppose it's true though, isn't it? Because it was entertaining, and I suppose that's the balance, isn't it? What's entertaining versus what's ultimately what you want to do is get it to go to 5 days ideally, 4 or 5 days, and each day being on a knife edge. That's what you want, don't you? Where something like this, England were going to win as soon as New Zealand were 5 down or 3 down at the end of, what was it, Friday, Saturday. Oh no, then Saturday they took 2 wickets, didn't they? And then Sunday I was just basically wrap it up. I mean, look, we should be.
It's about a contest, isn't it?
Yeah, it is about
you
contest.
want the contest to so you expect the day one contest to be slightly favourable for bowlers, probably, unless, but then that's what you'd think, and then as day 2 and 3, that's your time, and going into 4, that's your time where you score your runs and you see what your bowlers are about, because it's hard work, and then day 5 it's about your craft, your batting craft to try and to get a win chasing, and also those bowlers finding ways, which is but yeah, so you want a contest but this one was too heavily in favour of the bowlers, and that's what was clearly evident.
So does that therefore mean, by inference, England's bowling attack is better than New Zealand's? Or did they just bowl better on those 3 or 4 days?
No, I think it was pretty. That's a bit. I think it's a hard one to judge. I think England probably got it right. Ollie Robinson being so, that he would take that wicket round every match, wouldn't he?
Yeah, sure.
If
Yeah.
what a dream, what a dream start for him, because he's, I was looking at his paces. His paces are late 70s, touching 80. But what he could do was use his height, and he landed it on a spot, and with the slope, it was virtually unplayable. And then you had Tongue wasn't moving it as much, but he was hitting good areas and make it tricky. So I don't know about the England's bowlers are better than New Zealand's. I just think that they, in this occasion, they exploited it probably a bit better than New Zealand did, but not by much.
Nathan Smith bowled well. Yeah, he took 6 for, didn't he, in the first innings, I think. Yeah, bowled very well. And obviously England all out for, 120 odd or 140 odd or whatever it was. Emilio Gay. That's pretty much what he would have wanted. A couple of lovely shots to get out to go to 8 in his first innings, and then he was out with a very good ball. It's got to be said that he nicked off to slip. And then gets a 50 odd in his second innings. What I liked about him, I heard a couple of interviews that he did. On the pitch, great technique. We've talked about him before when we saw him in the nets at Lord's. Played very straight, technically very good. But I like the confidence of the lad in and around that group. Where if you heard any of the interviews he did during the match and after it, he came across like a seasoned pro. How much of that inherent confidence plays a part in how you approach something as daunting as making a Test debut at Lord's?
Yeah, he did. He spoke brilliantly in the lead up. He spoke about using the nerves positively. So he didn't shy away from it. He spoke about how he was nervous and expected to be, and in a way wanted to be. And so I just thought what was impressive was his character going into it. I think his batting side of stuff we know of, because he's done well for the Lions. In each stage he's done well. His move up to Durham has been a good one, away from Northampton, and so he's gained confidence with his cricket. He clearly trusts his cricket, and that's massive for a player, especially a batter. If you have trust in what you're doing, your preparation is aligned with, okay, what are the bowlers trying to do? I'm really happy with my technique. How are they trying to get me out? Okay, they're going to use a slope in this direction, and then you start to really have clarity with your process, and by trusting yourself, and then understanding how they're going to get you out. You formulate your game plan, and that's where I thought he was excellent.
And it's the opposite of that then Ben Stokes, because he's gone down from 6 to 7, hasn't really got many runs recently. Is this a case of him doubting his batting, not trusting his technique? What is that? Why has he moved to 7, and why is he not the batting Ben Stokes of old?
Well, I haven't, I've seen pictures of that have been in the papers and on, on the apps and stuff like that, and his dismissals of. And one thing that's talked a lot about with batting is your contact point. That's where Emilio Gay was fantastic. His contact point was close into his body, under his eyes. Where just watching Ben Stokes, his front leg was straight, hands pushing out, and on a wicket that's moving around, that's what. So there clearly is a bit of a technical issue with that. He hasn't played a lot because of the face injury, and then what he's played. He's had a couple of matches for Durham, so I do think there's probably a little bit of a technical thing that he needs to work on, but probably hasn't had the amount of middle time that he wants. But I also understood that Smith has done really well for Surrey at 3, so he's someone who's got that, and Stokes is getting older, and with his potential bowling workload, I didn't really have a problem with that. I didn't see it as Stokes shying away from it at all. I just saw it as a bit of a, as you get older, you have to look at it and be a bit realistic, that. And the other thing, Stokes backs really well with the tail. If you think back to the Ashes when he won when he scored that amazing 100, he was outstanding with the tail. And so there's all those sort of dynamics that you're considering as well. But people have sort of pigeonholed it that Stokes is nowhere with his batting. He's got problems. Well, actually, let's pin it around to as a tactical move for Stokes is going to get runs, and likely he's going to bat with the tail. We know he's great at doing that, but he needs to be batting to be able to do that. So I think Ben Stokes will be working hard in between Test matches now to just sort out that little bit of stuff where, yes, technically he's pushing out, right? Play it under your eyes a bit, and then if he does that, I think he'll start to build his confidence and trust in himself, and the runs will come.
So England got off to a good start after the Ashes and stuff. It was important that they got off to a winning start, which they've done. The other thing, I suppose, which is typically cricket, and it happened on Saturday, I think, and it happens a lot. It's the playing times are so rigid. Now, I don't know if that's because of broadcast or whatever that is, but ultimately there was a point on Saturday where the sun was shining and the players were having lunch, an early lunch, and then when they came out to play, it started raining. I mean, it must be so frustrating if you're paying 140, 150 quid a ticket to see that happening. Any ideas why cricket is so rigid, and should it be more flexible in terms of playing when the playing conditions suit them being out there?
Well, you don't want your roast chicken dry, do you? So if
No.
if that,
admittedly,
you tell the caterers know 1 o'clock we need to have our chicken just perfect, all the steak as you get later on in the day. And so if the umpires are then changing it willy nilly, how on earth are the players going to be fed to the standard that they? Clearly I'm being facetious, but I think that plays a part in it.
I'm not sure you are.
Side of it. So
I saw you at lunch at Lord's. I don't think you are. I think that's exactly what players think like. Or Rod Tucker.
Because I've played in matches where it's been a consideration. Okay, it's the weather's pretty poor now. Okay, can lunch be brought forward? And they go, oh no, it won't be ready until this time. And so, okay, right, we'll take lunch. So they do try to a degree, but that was. I don't know, trying to think of the right words, but it was particularly unfortunate that when the sun was shining, the players were eating, and when it was raining, so there is that rigidity with it, which especially in Test cricket with those set times. I think in first class cricket, there's a bit more flow and a bit more flexibility to it. but with Test cricket, it's harder. There's been loads of occasions, hasn't there? So, but I do think a little bit is based around what meal times, to be honest, when they can be ready.
So it's not the broadcasters, it's the caterers. That's definitely a new one on me. What did you do if you knew it was going to be a rain break and stuff, or if you knew it was going to be an on-off kind of day? Did you come more prepared than normal? Did you sort of bring crosswords and any of that stuff, or what did you do? What did you do when it was raining outside? Just sit in the change room?
Come on, mate. We've done 50 odd of these. Do I look like a crossword person?
Well, I wasn't necessarily. I mean, I was talking more generally. I mean, what did Straussy do, for example? Let's go with what did Straussy do
Well,
and
yeah,
what did Fred do, right? It's two
he would have done
two
the
opposite. Yeah, it's
Telegraph and
more
the Times
difficult.
crossword.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I found rain breaks horrible because trying to that for me sort of wanting to know what was happening and stuff. So when it was, and the other thing, which again we come back to drainage and everything like that. Whereas before, going back 20 plus years, you knew if it was wet, that was it. They would call it quick,
Yeah.
done. Now you can wait, and the umpires will go out there and they go, okay, we're on in half hour. So it can be that quick with you have a bit of an inkling, and then all of a sudden you come back and they've made a decision. Right, we're starting, and you then are in a mad rush, and that's what I really didn't like. It was that side of it put me off, and I found that really hard as a player. If I happened to be batting or even keeping wise, to go right, okay, you're out there. But that was down to me and wanting my set prep. So it is tough, but you're right. There's all sorts goes. Some guys will go in the bathrooms and play sort of one hand, one bounce cricket. That happens. Other guys will chill out. Other guys, there's other guys will get a massage. Use it for treatment time. So there's people sort of buzzing around. Other people will go over to the indoor school if they think there's enough time at Lord's to go and have a hit over there. So it's very individual as to what people like to do.
So if the hotel's on the ground, could you go back for a kit?
Well, quite often, if the hotel was closer on the ground and it was raining when you opened the curtains in the morning and you'd looked at the forecast and it forecast double dots. So cricketers look, on the weather app, you look at it and it has, single dots is sort of light rain, double dots is heavy, and then
Yeah.
double dots with if you looked the night before and you saw the double dots and the lightning bolt, you were like, yes. And then you'd open the curtain and expecting it to be absolutely belting it down. If that was the case, someone would go off to the ground, coach or whatever, and just you'd get the message. We'll let you know, lads, when you need to be in. We'll speak to. So that happened quite a lot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So
stay in bed.
yeah. So if you would, yeah. But if you went to the ground, you were generally at the ground then until it was called off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it worked out that you could just chill around the hotel and you'd get the phone call. Well, and going back to my early Kent days, Min Patel, who I played with, and is a coach now for Kent. He would love going down to the East Kent snooker hall, which wasn't too
Okay.
far from the ground. That sort of stuff would happen. So if there's stuff close by, I imagine now if there's paddle close by, guys will maybe go off and do some paddle and what have you. So yeah, you'll find different ways to entertain yourself.
We ought to finish on a cricket thing, I suppose, or on a on-pitch thing. Jamie Smith stood up to Ollie Robinson a few times in that test. I don't think Ollie Robinson was too pleased at one point of the keeper standing up to him when you're bowling at 130, 140 clicks or whatever. Question. I mean, have you ever come across an occasion where bowler's ego has been massively dented by you or any other keeper standing up? Because if you're a big fiery fast bowler and the keeper stood up, it's probably going to dent your machismo a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, there will be some. Yeah, exactly. And even Darren Stevens, who I played with at Kent quite a bit, he wouldn't always like me stood up because, and I can understand why Ollie Robinson was a bit perturbed by it because what he was getting was a lot of lateral movement, and his
Yeah,
wickets were likely to be nicks.
yeah,
So Smith, I imagine, came up I didn't see it, but Smith would have come up to stop the New Zealand batters going down and outside
Yeah,
their
stop
crease
Phillips walking out of his
to
crease.
try and correct. Yeah, so Smith would have gone, well, actually, if I can pin him in the crease, I can stop his footwork, and then I'll give Robinson more chance to maybe get him LBW or nick. But
Yeah,
Robinson would have been just thinking of the dismissal mode of a nick behind being harder for Smith to do. But Smith was proactive. As a keeper, that's the balance you take. Do I get up to the stump, trust my skills, trust everything I've got, because the pressure I'm going to put on the batter is going to be of greater importance and potentially create a wicket more than's happening now. And that's why you do it. The flip side is, I remember keep standing up to Matthew Hoggard in Adelaide, and Hoggy was very similar pace to Robinson. But the reason for that was because it was a pretty dead wicket and I wasn't sure it would carry. So that was the method there. And again, because of it being Hoggy wanted to bowl straighter. And so me coming up stopped the Aussie batsman moving down the crease and allowed Hoggy to just hit his natural length, because that's the other thing. Bowlers will have a natural length. And so by the keeper coming up and batters staying where they are, it allows that to continue. But certain bowlers just won't like the visual of the keeper standing up. They'll be put off by that.
there was a case, wasn't there, when England were batting where Tom Blundell was stood up and someone nicked it, a left-hander, I don't know who it was, but Darryl Mitchell didn't even see it, slips, because the keeper was blocking his view and maybe the positioning was wrong. I've always been fascinated by keepers standing up in terms of reaction times, because there was a few times where Robinson got that bit of extra bounce and Smith was taking it up here, whereas the hands were starting off obviously down below. Is that is it the hands that you've got to get in the right position to make sure you're not giving away a load of buys every time? And you've got to kind of judge where the ball's going to end up, haven't you?
Yeah. And the demonstration you just gave then was absolutely terrible. If I saw, like, with you going there and like that, you're like, what?
That was
It
me.
wasn't.
That
I
was
thought
also,
I saw.
that's also the
Yeah,
same as my leave shot, by the way.
look
It's
at
the
your
same thing.
elbow. Get your elbow in. Yeah.
Got no flexibility, mate. That's the
No, I
problem.
thought I saw a couple of those takes from Smith, and they were fantastic because he got himself slightly inside the line and allowed that freedom, and his gloves could snap up, and he took them nicely. And so, yeah, you do have the time to. People look at it and think, well, how do you? But if your positioning and if your posture and everything is good, and you can give your hands freedom to react to it, you'll be absolutely fine. Because
Batting,
much
huh?
like batting,
Yeah.
as you go up through the level. So club cricketers will look at pros and go, how on earth do you face someone bowling 85, 90 mile an hour? Well, you're sort of used, because each level has its progression.
Yeah.
Same with keeping. As you go up there, at some point as a keeper, I would have stood up to someone, and my technique and everything is good enough to be able to do that skill, and that's the key. If your technique helps you out, and that's where. And I know Smith's worked really hard with Sarah Taylor in the preparation, and his keeping, I liked his energy, everything like that, and that allows you then to react to the different pace of the ball, and you can and challenge yourself as to how quick you can stand up to how quick a bowler is that you can stand up to.
Well, England have got off to a great start. I think it's now week Wednesday. I think the next test. Don't see that many changes in the squad, Jonesy, and we'll do a preview show for that test next week.
Sounds good.